We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity we make up for in film study, and each and every week we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I'm your host, Shane Half. You can give me a follow on Twitter at ShaneHalfNFL. Joined, as always, by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Jonny, how you doing this evening?
Guess I'm doing as well as you can be, Shane, the week after a playoff loss. I don't know. We'll get into the game very briefly. We're not going to do a huge stint on it this week because especially when the coaches are not going to be there next year. But yeah, disappointment. I think anger on Monday. I haven't been well over the weekend and I couldn't face staying up to 1 a.m. and getting like 2 hours sleep watching this game. So I made the right decision to not stay up for it, which is very unusual for me for a playoff game. But yeah, I needed sleep badly. Waking up Monday morning, like my initial reaction was just like disappointment. And then as the day went on, it went to anger. Because you don't want to do like the "we told you so" thing. And I know you've had a nice little spat on Twitter with a certain somebody about that, which is always good fun.
I'm done.
He deserved it. But you don't want to do like the whole "told you so" thing. But it was coming, wasn't it, man? Like, this is what the offense deserved. The offense got what the offense deserved. And we'll talk about it briefly. But yeah, just disappointing because it's so predictable. And the film sucks for this week, by the way. If they had somehow won this game, I don't know how we'd break down this team and try and pretend they were going to win a Super Bowl next week, playing the Bears or the Rams or whatever would have happened.
Yeah, no offense to Elliott Short Parks, but I don't have the single clue how you could rewatch this game back on All-22 and be like, actually, Kevin Patullo called a good game. Like, this game was perfect examples from beginning to end of the absolute garbage that he's put on the field all season.
Yeah, it was rubbish.
Honestly, like, that has to be, I just watched the broadcast and I saw A.J. Brown with a couple of drops, so I think it was a good game, right? Like, there's no chance you turned on that film and thought it was good.
Yeah, it sucked. And the thing is, I said a couple of weeks ago, like, I saw good signs. And we said on air, didn't we? We think the problem is that the good signs are going to go away because they were terrified of turning the ball over. And Hurts' most interesting game of the year was when he threw like 3 picks.
Yeah.
And because of that, that was obviously like, oh, God, don't do that again. My goodness, don't do that because look what happens. And they didn't do any of the good stuff this week. Like, there was barely anything. Take away red zone. It's like a couple of runs and that was about it. Like, there was barely any of the good stuff at all. So, yeah, we're not going to break down film this week. We're not going to bother going into, because they don't deserve it, in all honesty, on offense. But do you want to just talk like big picture about the offense this week and sort of what happened? And yeah, what we'll do for everyone listening, it'll be a relatively quick show because, in all honesty, I don't want to talk OC candidates too much because I hate talking unprepared. And I haven't had time to go and study Todd Monken and Cliff Kingsbury, but I've watched some of them this year, so I can give some takes. So we'll do the offensive performance. We'll do a brief bit on the defense because there are some things I want to talk about on the defense briefly because Fangio will be here next year and obviously going forward, I think that's worth maybe a little chat. And then we'll talk some OC candidates. So yeah, what did you think of the offensive game plan in general, except for just saying obviously it sucked, which it obviously did.
Hot garbage. I mean, just everything about how it's constructed. I mean, I did the film review for Patreon, the pass game review, and so I mean I can start with the pass game, but you know, from I think it was the first pass attempt of the game was an RPO with Dallas Goedert as the outside guy on a bunch, and he just can't even get close to where he needs to be at the time Hurts needs to throw the football. To dialing up a play action shot out of 13 personnel that requires Kylan Granson to run a post and Dallas Goedert to beat a cornerback on an out and up, as if Dallas Goedert has the speed. Even if that corner bites on the out route, how's he not going to recover on a 50-yard pass, a vertical route? To your first fourth down when you line up an empty, and the only thing you do out of empty is run with the quarterback or throw a slot out to Devontae Smith, and the 49ers go cover zero blitz, and you don't have one route to the middle of the field. It's just curls with the out route, and you know the corner sits on it. This was the thing I think that they sat on. This is what we're going to pull out in the playoffs. We're going to put Devontae Smith in the backfield, and that's cool. Except all 3 times he was in the backfield, it was just an immediate flare out pass. Like, you never ran an angle route. You didn't run a route tree off of it. To running curls to the sticks on repeat on third downs. And a lot of times doing that out of empty so you could get double chips against the worst pass rush in the NFL, 32nd in sacks, first in pressure rate. So you could get double chips to run 3 curls to the sticks. I mean, the perfect example of everything comes when you get that holding on Darius Cooper on the Jalen Hurts run, which I think was a pretty weak holding penalty, but you end up at 1st and 20. And so on 1st and 20, you run a 5-yard hitch route to Dallas Goedert, and it ends up incomplete. And then on 2nd and 20, presumably they were trying to get into 2nd and 15, let's hand the ball off to Will Shipley's range. It's incomplete, so they just run it on 2nd and 20 anyways, get to 3rd and 13. And then on 3rd and 13, they double chip, run curls to the sticks. Like, it was just stuff like that all game. To the point, you get to the final play of the game, and I'll stop ranting in a second, but you get to the final play of the game, and everybody's talked about it being 4 verticals against quarters, okay? I'm sure everybody's heard that. The four verticals is a cool route concept because it, on the chalkboard, has a way to beat every coverage but one, and that's quarters. And so the 49ers had played quarters or cover 6, which is quarter, half, on almost half of their snaps for the game. And they had done it on 6 out of 9 snaps, I guess, at that point on the final drive. And so for you to, first of all, burn a timeout, which is a terrible process that ensures you won't get the ball back if you fail, to then call 4 verticals without a check for quarters. Like, literally all you have to do is scissor the guys, have them cross each other instead of running straight up the field, and that messes with quarters. It gives you a chance. To not have anything built in to beat quarters, which was their most frequent coverage in the game, it's just, I know people overuse malpractice, but it's malpractice. And they show up, like at the beginning, it looks like cover 0, but an A.J. Brown motion makes them kind of tip their hand, and you can tell it's quarters. Well, why didn't Jalen Hurts check out of the play? Because there were 3 seconds left on the play clock. Because even out of a timeout, you couldn't get to the line with time to check into something better. And so you have to force a throw into triple coverage. Doesn't work. You lose the season the same way you've lost games all season, with horrible offense, horrible design. And man, I'm so glad that we get to talk about offensive coordinator candidates after this, because it's a change that should have been made in October, as I've been saying for months.
Yeah, how hard do I want to go? Do I have one final rant? Have I got one final rant in me for this year? Let's just say big picture that I don't want people to lose jobs. It's a business. The idea they're going to keep him around, by the way, we'll talk about at the end, is utter nonsense. I don't want him anywhere there. Like, shut up with that crap. Like, that really annoys me, and we'll talk about it at the end. He wasn't very good. He deserved to lose his job. He should have got ages ago. Everything I read about him in the media is rubbish as well. He says nothing of any substance in press conferences. He doesn't ever seem to take any accountability for what the offense is doing. And the idea that he's going on, like, speaking to Ryan Fitzpatrick, like, people don't know how hard my job is. I'm like, shut up. You get paid good money to do a job. We all do in life, and you sucked at it. And that's life. I've sucked at jobs I've had in the past, and I haven't kept them, and I deserve it. And he doesn't deserve to keep it. Like, I'm not even going to bother talking about the last drive, because it's actually bored me. I think too much has happened on the last drive. Like, I feel like there's been so much focus because of Kurt Warner being a bit of a what's the word when you're not going with
contrarian?
Yes, being a contrarian. And because of, like, I think so much talk on the last drive, there's been so much obsession with it. So screw the last drive. Like, let's just talk big picture. Grant Calcaterra in this game played 20 snaps. He pass blocked for 5. He run blocked for 14. He ran 1 pass route. Like, that is inconceivable to me. Like, he is no good at blocking, and he can run routes. That is total malpractice. And I said this in the article, and I feel mean saying it, but they feel like idiots who watch teams do stuff and go, that's cool. That's not how football works. Like, anyone can run a play. First play of the game, they motion A.J. Brown into the box and they go condensed. Why? Because that's what the Rams do, and that's what the 49ers like to do. And A.J. Brown doesn't even block his guy. And the guy who makes the tackle is, of course, the guy that A.J. Brown is meant to be blocking. And all you had to do was literally run the exact same play and leave A.J. Brown out wide. There is zero benefit to motion him into the box, except for, like, well, other teams do it, condense the front, blah, blah, blah. The whole thing pissed me off this week. Like, I've defended him a little bit of late. I've tried to look at positives, and I really have. When Hurts had that bad game, and it wasn't just me, because I looked at that game and I said it on my Discord, I said, the Eagles might fix this, lads. And then I heard Greg Cosell come out and said, oh my God, this was a good game plan. The stuff is there. I'm sick of the Hurts stuff about he can't do X, Y, and Z. I tweeted this earlier on, but the 49ers' first touchdown, there's a motion, there's a fake toss. Brock Purdy throws the easiest quick slant of all time. And if you're telling me Jalen Hurts doesn't want that because it muddies the picture, just like, shut up. No, it doesn't. Yes, he may not want motion all of the time. He may have certain things he wants. That's perfectly okay. But the idea that he can't throw a quick slant because they might motion the ball into him, or the motion the ball away from him, is just utter nonsense. They ran a 13 personnel play action shot, or AJ Brown's going nothing. Dallas Goedert doesn't know where he's running. He's running a wheel, and Jalen Hurts thinks he's running a wheel, and he's running a corner route, and he just throws the ball to no one. There's so many bad plays. They go empty in this game. We've called for empty, right? All season long we've called for empty. And yeah, sorry, I'm looking at the commenting about Nate Trice being contrarian. That's because certain people don't want to blame coaches. They want to blame Hurts. I get it. They want to be contrarian. Like, in the nicest possible way, I can't be bothered to acknowledge those opinions anymore because I've watched this team all season long. I've watched every play more than once. And I've watched the Eagles offense with Hurts for 5 years, and this year sucks more than any other year I've watched. The Brian Johnson stuff was bad, but that was a complete failure against the blitz, and Hurts owned that and got better. But every time the Eagles go empty, they're really good at it. If you go too high against the Eagles empty coverage, or against the Eagles empty package, what do? They run the QB draw. So the 49ers predictably went, well, screw that, we're blitzing it. We're blitzing it every time you go empty. So therefore, you have got basically cover zero, every man free, run a pick route, run a slant flat, run crossing routes, run mesh. You've got everything you want. And they run a quick out to Devontae Smith. And you could say Devontae Smith loses that route. He does. So what, we're going to blame Devontae Smith now? Devontae Smith's not a good route runner. Because he loses. No, because the coach put him in a crap situation. Coaches are meant to make people's jobs easier. This offense does nothing to help their players out. It leaves them to dry. When they get single high coverage, they chuck it deep to AJ Brown and go on, AJ, do it. Go on. And guess what? AJ Brown's not as good. We've seen it this year. I like AJ Brown. I think he's got value. I think he'll be back next year, despite what people say, because the cap isn't great for getting rid of him, and I think him and Hurts have sorted it. Make him a big slot, throw him some quick slants, give him some quick outs, quick ins. He can run routes. He can create the yards after the catch. He might not be able to just simply destroy single high man coverage like the god he was the past 3 years, as arguably the best receiver in the league. And when they haven't got that, the coach is like, oh my God, what do we do now? AJ Brown's not winning vertically. I'm like, all right, we'll do something else then. Yes, they dropped a few. Yes, Devontae Smith dropped a few. Yes, AJ Brown dropped a couple, but 1 or 2 calls doesn't make the coaches right. Yes, Landon Dickerson has sucked. Yes, Cam Jurgens has sucked. Your job is to move around that and try and find ways to do things differently. For example, run a screen pass. Look at Cam Jurgens in space in this game, Shane. On that one screen. Oh my God, Cam Jurgens can run down the field. That's who he is. Stop running outside zone and asking him to make impossible reach blocks all year. So many things annoys me about this game. So many things. They ran duo twice, and both times they ran it was good. They ran outside zone 7 times for 13 yards, and it was bad every basically time they ran it. Take away the one big run they had on the first run of the game because the 49ers can't set the edge, and they had 25 carries for 77 yards, Barkley had. I watched this 49ers defense quite a lot for the preview, and they suck. Robert Saleh does not suck as a coach. They have got not enough talent on defense. They have no pass rush whatsoever. They can't hit a QB. Jalen Hurts was kept clean all game long. That's all any offensive coaching staff wants. You keep your QB clean, you should have a decent passing game in this league. And they did nothing. It drove me insane. What did the 49ers do? 74% zone coverage rate. What did they do? Play split safety coverage, and it stopped them every single time. When they went from, play action, they had some success, but they barely used it. The early down run game was an absolute disgrace. They can't beat split safety zone coverage, and I think what really annoyed me was it's a bad defense, and I know it's a bad defense because I watched it a lot, and the amount of coverage busts they have this year, and they've got new players, just really annoying. And final thing I'll say, but I'm done. I actually don't want to talk about the offense anymore. Genuinely, I'm out. Is all this stuff Jalen Hurts doesn't want to run anymore. All right, people just repeat it. They repeat it. They ask Jalen Hurts in press conferences, and as far as I'm aware, he's pretty open and honest. And maybe he's a complete two-faced liar. And when they tell him, why don't you run anymore, he goes, the coaches don't call it. I don't know. But they didn't call the QB run game all year. The biggest schematic advantage the Eagles had, actually I've got one more point after this and I'm shutting up. The biggest schematic advantage the Eagles had all year was a QB run game, and they didn't use it at all. They ran it once in this game, and it worked. There was a stupid holding penalty, and they don't do it again. And I'm like, are you kidding? It worked.
Can I give you a context on your play action point?
Yes, go. And then I've got one thing and then I'm out.
Okay. The Eagles' 7 play action attempts in this game, 0.488 EPA per attempt. The Eagles' 28 non-play action attempts, negative 0.238 EPA per attempt. That is a swing of, That's a swing of almost 0.7 points expected per pass attempt. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. And I was going to mention that we mentioned that earlier on. The QB run game, nonsense. If Hurts doesn't want to be a runner anymore, all right, change the way you run the offense. Completely change the way you do it, and possibly change your quarterback as well. I'm just going to be honest with you. Because Hurts has to run the ball a little bit. I'm not talking 15 carries. I'm not talking Justin Fields because he can't throw the ball. 7, 8 carries. He doesn't need to get hit every play. They actually ran QB counter bash once as well in this game. Did you notice they did that?
It was a give to Bigsby, right?
And it worked.
And Bigsby didn't cut it upfield.
No,
the hole was there.
But it worked. The hole was there because they got dragged out by the quarterback. They ran, and final thing I'd say is they ran dart once in this game, or twice maybe. It drew on my appalled, and I was like, oh my God, they've got it in the playbook there. It's there. It's been all year I've not seen dart. I've been like, well, they're going to run dart again. They got Jordan Mailata.
Did you see what happened on that, by the way?
And yeah, once again, Bigsby missed the hole on the second time they ran it.
Well,
and it just tells me
there was a time they ran dart
Yeah.
And had Mailata pulling at Bryce Huff, and Bryce Huff stopped him in his tracks.
Yeah, I actually thought Mailata played really well, so I'm going to push back on you a little bit. I thought Mailata had a really good game in this one, to be honest with you.
I did too, but that one particular one, I was like, man, how are we not washing him out of there?
But that's it. I'm out. Seriously, I'm done. I don't want to talk about the offense anymore. I think it was terribly coached all year. They had about 3 to 4 weeks where they sucked me back in, and they showed stuff that works, and they showed Hurts can throw to intermediate the field. They showed he can do under center play action, and then they just gave up with it. And why did they give up with it? Because they were winning for parts of the game. They were in a close game. They didn't want to turn the ball over. And I'm pretty sure that's it. That's it. And guess what? If A.J. Brown catches a ball in the end of the game, Devontae Smith catches a tough one, maybe they win. And they go into next week going, oh, good job, guys. Well done. Really good. It was crap. They deserve to lose. In some ways, I'm glad they lost. And obviously, I'm not as a fan. But they didn't deserve to get through. This offensive staff, if the idea that Patullo could come back because they won this game would have been like just complete nonsense. And we'll talk more about the OC very briefly long. But they deserve the criticism they're getting. I don't want to hear any like sympathy, like no one listened to me. Just rubbish. Rubbish all year. And I don't want to talk about it anymore. And anything I do for Patreon this offseason when I'm looking at the offense, I'm going to try and evaluate players somehow without getting mad about this scheme again, because I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah. Yep. That's it. That's all I've got. If you want the past game review, and I think I'm biased. I think it's worth watching. It's on the Patreon. You can go see a lot of that stuff play out. And I do think, like, if you haven't watched any of the past game review, if you're out there and you want to join our Patreon, we're going to have a lot of cool off-season content. I think this one past game review perfectly encapsulates all of the issues in the drop back passing game. So it's a good, like, primer on why Patullo lost his job and what we're going to be looking for moving forward. So, okay, you said you wanted to talk some defense before we get on to the offseason?
Really briefly, I think you and Philly want to be GM smashed it on the post game because he nailed it in one in terms of Fangio's coverage. Only thing I want to say is that I think Kyle Shanahan is amazing, and I think we all know that. A lot of people don't like him. He's rubbish in game management, but Eagles fans getting in their high horse about Shanahan not being very good because of his game management. Unreal offensive designer, right? Fangio has wrecked him 4 times out of 4, and I think it was only fair that he was going to get one back on him. And it's just worth thinking, because Fangio's here next year. The defense will probably be quite similar. I hope they study the way they coach this game, because I really don't think they did a good job defensively. Not individually as much, but schematically. So, I won't go into too much detail. We're not going to do a huge amount of film, but I think if I could give, constructive feedback for fans to think about, and something I want to see in the offseason, is when George Kittle went out, this offense had very little. And I don't think they handled McCaffrey particularly well. I said this on a film thread earlier on. I think if McCaffrey was a wide receiver, they'd have been a lot better against him. I think the fact he's a running back, I think messed with Fangio a little bit. And they played so much free match. And as I said, Philly wannabe GM called this on the post game, who's also working with us on the Patreon, by the way, and is a god of Fangio basically knowledge, and he called it off the initial film, which is impressive, because without the All-22 I struggle to have any idea what the hell Fangio's doing. They just did it a lot, and every time they did it, it felt like Purdy hit the intermediate area of the field, or they got McCaffrey on a linebacker, and I was just disappointed that they didn't do something a little bit creative. I actually call for the same thing as him, as Cooper DeJean at safety, which will blow your mind because I've never mentioned that in the preview I mentioned, because I just had an idea maybe you can cover him better. But I looked this up, and I know that Sumo Brain AI isn't perfect with stuff, but it's pretty good in terms of single high. They ran cover 3 on 15 plays. They allowed 9 out of 15, 60%, 156 passing yards. Only 4 snaps of cover 4. Like, that really surprised me in this game. They lived heavily in cover 3. It's true, they got 2 interceptions that may have been that, but I don't think you can give the coverage that, in personal opinion. I think Purdy forced it into a bad look. I think they played a lot of it, and I hope that they really study this, because the odds are, if the Eagles are going to win it all next year, they're going to have to beat a Fangio. They're going to have to beat a Shanahan offense, because there's loads of them around. And I hope they look at how they handled it. And I will just end. I don't even want to talk about individuals on D, except Jalen Carter's got to have a serious look in the offseason about what he is doing on film, because it was not good. And Yakko made a comment saying Fangio would erect him if the offense could sustain 1 or 2 more drives. I tend to think the defense being bad this year was because they got fed up. I think I tweeted this earlier on. If you look at the first snap I tweeted, they were flying out there. I think it's hard to keep that real level of aggression when you are watching an offense that is just completely and utterly broken.
Yeah, and I think a big part, too, of what played into it is in the first half, they were playing nickel to the 49ers power sets, 21 personnel, 22 personnel. The 49ers obviously called way less 22 personnel.
I have something on that as well.
Okay.
Just quickly, I had them from the 49ers 21 personnel. They were 6 out of 8 for 134 yards. So, didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, so they do less 22 personnel after Kittle gets hurt, but they played a lot of 21 still. So, the thing, Jordan Davis gets banged up in the second half. And that really impacted the Eagles' ability to play nickel to those heavier sets from the 49ers. And so the Eagles in the first half were in base defense on only 19% of their snaps. In the second half, that jumped up to 53%. And even despite that, the 49ers' run game was much better in the second half, at 10 for 23 yards in the first half, 15 for 52 yards in the second half. So the 49ers run game got better despite the fact the Eagles went heavier personnel. And I think a lot of it goes back to Jordan Davis kind of being injured / out for portions of the second half. And that opens things up in the pass game.
Davis is huge. David, not just in terms of size, in terms of importance to this defense. Yeah, Breaded Lips commented, I did look it up. It didn't blitz Dean that often. I think he did blitz like 5 times, but it didn't feel like he had a big impact. No, I think Shanahan won. I do genuinely think Shanahan won overall. I think and I know people will say, well, the defense did quite well overall, but when you lose Kittle and Ricky Pearsall's not there and Trent Williams maybe isn't full Trent Williams, they're not a totally like dominant offensive talented team. I think you have to give Shanahan credit for taking on a nearly fully healthy Eagles D. And I think they were the better team, better coaches. What really I find frustrating about this year was that the Eagles roster, I think, is really good. I think the Eagles roster is better now than I thought it was earlier on in the year. I was really worried about the defense, and I think actually a lot of the players that I was worried about ended up proving me wrong a little bit. Adoree Jackson, I thought, was perfectly fine down the stretch. They ended up adding Jalen Phillips. I think Jalen Hunt was better than I expected. I think Jomo and Davis were better than I expected. Obviously, linebacker play was better because Dean came back very strong. And that's maybe what's even more depressing is that I think they got... the talent level was so high and they wasted a year. They wasted a year because they couldn't be bothered to fire the coach
also,
in the bye week.
The play that ends the game, the touchdown pass. Nakobe Dean on the field trying to defend Christian McCaffrey one-on-one instead of Jahad Campbell. Jalen Carter, they run a stunt for Jalen Carter and he ends up pancaked.
Miles off it. Yeah, we got a comment about this, by the way, about Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis if you had to pay one. Like, I sort of hate those questions. It's more of a Patreon mailbag when it's not out there in the real world. But I really don't know is like the exact answer because I need to see what Carter is like in terms of health-wise. Jalen Carter, good, is the best Eagles defensive player. when he's good last year. And I assume this year he wasn't healthy and we didn't see the real Jalen Carter. But I think immaturity, talent level, I think you could argue Davis is more important and he seems like a good guy and he's going to cost less. I think it's now a debate. But I would just say a lot of football games are won by upside. You don't win by like 7 out of 10 players. You win by having a couple of blue chip players on the roster, and Carter healthy changes the defense. Like, he's the kind of guy that you could leave the Eagles, go to Green Bay like Parsons did, and you're watching him every week going, oh my God, how is he not playing for us? Whereas Davis going there, I don't think you'd have the same reaction. But yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I asked Jonny that very question like 6 weeks ago, and he outright refused to answer it. So Brett Eclipse caught him in a good moment, I guess.
Or in a bad mood. In a bad mood, just willing to throw players under the bus and get out of it. Don't want you in anymore. Go away.
Yeah.
It was actually the Fitzpatrick thing that annoyed me this week when Sherman went on the pod with Foles and said, like, Patullo's been saying it's really hard and people are judging him. They don't know what he does in the red zone. I'm like, the lack of accountability. I mean, Kurt Warner tweeted something like, OCs can't grow when they go after year one. But it's like, well, you got to have the right to grow. At least show signs of improved. Sorry, we're talking offense. Shut me up, Shane. Not doing it. Not doing it. This week annoyed me.
One of the things that I kind of identified that I really wanted to see Fangio do was blitz Purdy quite a bit, which admittedly would be a change-up for Fangio. He's not a big blitz guy, but I thought it made a lot of sense, and I was really disappointed to see him not do that. So, and again, I love Fangio, trust him implicitly. I was a little disappointed with the game plan that he brought out, but it was still good enough. They should have won if we're looking at defenses.
Right. So I think for the OC debate, we'll have a very quick OC debate, not a huge one. I think those in the Patreon, you got to join the Patreon to get the full on the Shane Page experience. So we'll do something proper. I think I'm going to wait and see what happens and how quickly, let's say, the hiring happens. But if there's another one hired next week, we might do a whole show for Patreon on the OC. So I don't like talking about things I haven't watched. I'm just going to be honest with you. So I'm not one to just like speak when I haven't seen somebody. So I need to have studied them. This year I've done a lot more because of the preview. So I can talk more about certain other coaches. But rather than like, I know people are going to want us to rank them. And I can briefly give you a very brief idea of like who I might have at the top. But I'm not going to necessarily rank them. I think we'll save that for the Patreon. If you want to get like the 1 to 10 ranking, you got to join the good stuff. But let's talk like big picture. What is it you are looking for? And I think we're probably on the same page, no pun intended with this. But what are you like looking for big picture with the Eagles OC hire? Then we'll get into some names, let's say.
I want somebody who has virtually no connection to Nick Sirianni. Like that's non-negotiable number one. Cannot be a Sirianni guy. So that's the biggest thing for me. And then I want somebody that, their scheme involves the QB run game, which that can be a little bit tricky because some coordinators, like, they'd be fine with that. They just haven't coordinated a mobile quarterback. And so I need you to be open to QB run game, even if you haven't done it. But like if you've had a semi-mobile quarterback and never used the QB run game, I'm probably out on that. So I want somebody that will use the QB run game. I want somebody that will use motion with a purpose, build in answers and plays for multiple fronts, multiple coverages. Someone that will get to the detailed things that we're lacking so much. I mean, like we talked about with Kellen Moore a lot, how his plays just had answers built in. There's an answer built in for the blitz. There's an answer built in for man. There's an answer built in for zone. I don't need you to be like a Sean McVay level of schemer because that dude's getting hired after a year with this personnel. But I just need you to have answers built in a plan and know how to cascade, sequence plays and build things off of each other instead of having all of these random little silos that your offense fits up in. Like we're going under center, so this will be a run play. We're going into 13 personnel, so this will be a play action shot play. Like those are the sorts of things that I need to not be around anymore. I tweeted something about the Eagles splits for the year, and I can't find it now, just based off of their personnel. Maybe it was actually in the Patreon and not something I put on Twitter, but oh no, here it is. Like this year, the Eagles ran the ball 35% of the time from shotgun and 78% of the time when they weren't in shotgun. Like you can't be that siloed. They ran the ball 77% of the time when they were in 13 personnel and 32% of the time in 11 personnel. Like you can't be siloed and tip your plays like that. And so honestly, I want somebody that's not a buffoon, and I think the offense will probably be fine. And I want somebody that will coach Hurts in areas that he is maybe not as good at and push him into that. I don't think you're going to be the Mike McDaniel offense next year where everything is play action timing routes over the middle. Like, that probably wouldn't go well because it's probably not Hurts' strength. But I think you can't ignore it and just live outside the numbers. And so I want somebody that'll coach Hurts hard, have a good relationship with him, work in those aspects. And honestly, after seeing the run game this year, it might not be bad if they've got some background in coordinating the run game too, because I'm not sure I trust Stoutland there anymore either.
Yeah, sorry. I'm similar. So there's a couple of differences. I'm not that fussed about a guy getting poached after 1 year. And I know that's really unfair, but I sort of feel like unless the Eagles are going to blow up the whole organization and Sirianni and the way they do things, if you've got a CEO, head coach, sometimes you've got to just accept that. And I know it sucks, but ideally you get like a good guy who then has a really good QB coach. And if the OC goes, the QB coach gets promoted and you can sort of work through that. Like what they tried to do this year, but it was a little bit different because Patullo wasn't a Kellen Moore guy. There was a Sirianni guy that was already there. Kellen Moore was just like an outsider, wasn't he? Kellen Moore didn't bring like a whole host of staff. It was still Stoutland. It was still Patullo. So it's a little bit of a different situation. I want someone to take complete control. I want something new. I want someone that's not a Sirianni guy at all. I want Sirianni to become more of a CEO type, overseeing the whole field. I am not fussed schematically massively, and we'll talk about some names. I'm not sure. So there's sort of like two camps. The way the NFL is going at the moment is big under center, like Seahawks style, Bills style. I'm not sure that suits Hurts as much, maybe, as some quarterbacks. So I think maybe leaning into QB run game, some RPOs might make sense, and I'll talk about some of the names for that in a bit. I agree with you. I think run game wise, I want someone who's got experience in run game. I ideally want someone who's got experience in QB run game. I think they've got some big names on this offense, and they might do next year. I don't want an unknown nobody. I don't want and I'm not naming names again. We'll do more of that on Patreon. I'm going to have a read over the next week of specific names. But I don't want like a QB coach for a year because he's been with McVay, because McVay's a freak and he's extremely good at his job. And the idea you just hire McVay's QB coach and they're instantly McVay probably isn't true. I'd like some play calling experience. I'd like some personally. I'm not that fussed about a sort of new up and coming who's never called plays before. I think I've seen a bad offense this year, and I want a little bit more experience personally.
Support for the Fans First Sports Network comes from Hypernatural Style. Men's Journal calls it the best men's polo shirt of 2024. Hypernatural offers polos, tees, and button-ups that deliver unmatched comfort and style. Hypernatural is a new generation of clean bio-performance clothing that reduces impact on the planet as well as your own health. Hypernatural created the first ever shirts made from jade stone and crab shells. Supreme natural comfort and cooling performance without harmful chemicals and plastic polyester. Visit hypernaturalstyle.com and receive 20% off at checkout using promo code FFSN. That's hypernaturalstyle.com using FFSN. Thank you for your support.
And I'll get into some of the names later on, and you can go lots of different ways schematically, but that's where my head is at the moment. I want someone that's a bit of a feisty guy who's going to coach Hurts and tell Sirianni that, no, this is my gig. And ideally someone who's dealt with stars as well, like AJ Brown, run game, and there might be reasons why they failed in other jobs. But yeah, I'm not like going down the route of I want a Shanahan guy. I want outside zone, boot action. Let's get Stefanski in here, under center, heavy power based. I'm not really like that. I think I'm okay as long as they can suit the personnel they've got in front of them. And the reason why I don't like hiring sometimes for that is because we don't know what the personnel's going to look like next year. We don't know. So it's not always easy to say, let's pick a coach for the personnel currently, because AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert might not be in next year. Lane Johnson might not be in next year for all we know. So I think if someone gets poached after 1 year, fine. Can I also say, Shane, if I'm honest with you, let's say they have a really good young OC or someone who gets poached after a year and he's that good and he runs the whole offense, maybe you fire Sirianni at the end of the year and you promote him. It's not impossible. The Bucs should have done it with Liam Cohen. It's happened before recently, hasn't it? Who was fired as a head coach and then they gave it to the coordinator? Lions maybe could have done it with Ben Johnson, but that's harsh because Dan Campbell has done really well in creating that culture. Wasn't there a team that fired the head coach to promote a DC or an OC?
I don't
Seahawks
remember.
possibly should have done it. with not Seahawks. Where was Mike McDonald at? Ravens? No, they had Harvard. They couldn't really do it. It's hard. But I don't think that's completely off the table. If they get someone really good. I don't think Kellen Moore was that level of good. I know people love Kellen Moore now because the Saints were good, but that offense wasn't brilliant all year either. So I don't think it was like we must fire Sirianni to promote Kellen Moore. Do you want to very briefly just get into some of the main names? And again, Patreon is where we'll do a proper breakdown. I'm going to dive into some stats. I'm going to watch some film. Is there anyone that like jumps off the page? You don't need to rank them. Just anyone that like maybe positives and negatives of some of the names that we're hearing, and then we'll get out.
Yeah, I think the 4 names I've heard most
I've got 4 as well.
Commonly are
See if we've got the same.
Brian Daboll.
Yep.
Mike McDaniel.
Yep.
Cliff Kingsbury.
Yep.
And
Todd Monken.
I was blanking. Todd Monken. I guess 5. Yeah. I've also heard Scott Loeffler thrown around a lot.
Oh, no. Don't do it. They lost their chance. Should have given him the reins in October. Should have given it the reins in October. That ship has now sailed. If he wasn't good enough to take over this year, he's not good enough. And I don't mean to be rude to him. He could be brilliant elsewhere. Just we can't take that risk.
I'll say
Can't take that risk.
I'll say this. I think he was. I think he probably will be. But I'm not willing to risk 20.
I don't mind keeping him around as a QB coach. And this is what I mean, Shane. Maybe he becomes the OC next year then if your up and coming guy gets fired after a year. Another year learning. So I'm not saying no, but yeah, he can't do it next year.
He's not getting an OC gig anywhere else this year.
No.
Based off of this. This is where I said the Eagles made a mistake. They should have had 2 months of him calling plays under their belt now so they could make an informed decision. But you can't go to Scott Loeffler now. So he's off the table for me. Of the other 4, I like 2 of the 4.
I like 2 different ones to me.
Huh?
You might like 2 different ones to me.
Who are the 2 you like?
I like Kingsbury and I think Monken the most. And I haven't ranked them.
We're the same. We like one of the same people.
You don't like Cliff Kingsbury, do you?
No, not at all.
No one likes Cliff Kingsbury except me.
Yeah.
I think Cliff Kingsbury might be like the perfect fit. To me, he's the easiest fit for Jalen Hurts. He's the easiest fit. And I think he's good enough to get a job the following year so you can promote Scott.
Which would work perfectly because he will suck the second year anyways, so you might as well get 1 year of him and get him out of there.
Washington were all right this year on offense, considering the talent and how bad they were. I was looking at their yards per play. I think they were like, I'm checking this now because I'm going to sound like an idiot. I remember I watched Washington for the preview, and I thought schematically they were quite good. They were 12th in yards per play this year, Shane. 12th on offense. With a terrible Jaden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, Deebo Samuel trying not to get injured. And even more importantly, 5th in yards per rush, 4th in rush yards per game. Name their best running backs. They really struggled to throw the ball. Well, guess what? Jaden Daniels wasn't very good, and what's his name as well? Marcus Mariota was not very good. So yeah, I'll just go briefly through the 4, and we'll save the others for Patreon. And I'm not ranking them. And yeah, Stefanski will have a look at. I know there were some other guys like the Rams, McVay tree. I'll wait and see on them. But I think Kingsbury's the obvious fit in terms of what Hurts does, easiest transition. I think Mike McDaniel will be unbelievable for run game. It might be terrible for Hurts. Might be too much RPO, might be too much quick game, too much quick release stuff. Not sure Hurts has got it in his locker, but he would challenge him hard. Monken's probably the easy one. And whether he'll even go for a head coach straight away, who knows? I think he's probably the perfect fit in many ways. Daboll is the wild card. Perfect with mobile quarterbacks. Had Josh Allen, turned him around, Daniel Jones, and did all right. And obviously, last year when Jackson Dart wasn't running headfirst into helmets, he was doing quite well at coaching him. Incredibly fiery, which is a nice word to saying he's a bit of a knob at times. Whether Daboll and Sirianni on the same sideline will be doable for my mental health, watching them both shout might be too much. And especially when they invariably shout at one another one day, it will be great for Twitter. I'm not sure it's great for culture, but he can coach. He can absolutely coach. But there's some worries.
Yeah.
There's some problems. I'll be honest, Daboll scares me a little bit because I think he's just an idiot. I'd be more inclined to have McDaniel, Kingsbury or Monken. But guess what? Other teams are going to think the same thing. So we'll have to wait and see.
I would very much like Todd Monken. Would love to have Monken. No doubt about it. I think Daboll's my number 2. My concern for him would be the interpersonal things you mentioned with him and Sirianni, which, to be honest, I would also kind of like a coach that will kick Nick Sirianni out of his offense room and tell him to take a hike. So maybe that works well, but he's got the relationship with Jalen Hurts. Jalen's spoken glowingly about him in the past. The first guy that ever taught him how to play quarterback from the pocket is something Jalen has said about Brian Daboll. There's stories out there about...
And that's good.
Yeah, there's stories out there about Hurts calling up Dable and like wanting to watch film, and Dable was supposed to be going out with his wife, and he's like, sure, let's watch film for an hour, which is bad marital advice, but maybe something you like in your offensive coordinator. And he's got that relationship with the coach, with the quarterback already. Concerns with him, the interpersonal stuff with Sirianni. Also, I thought he was completely reckless with Jackson Dart's health this year because his seat was hot, and it's hard to trust a guy that is like that. However, maybe that aggression balances out a little bit of Sirianni's conservatism. Maybe he doesn't act that way if his seat's not hot. Maybe also Jackson Dart's just a reckless idiot too. We'll have to see if a new coach can kind of coach that out of him.
Absolutely is. Yeah.
Those are kind of my concerns.
Hurts won't take
him.
the same hits that Dart. If you think they was going to make Hurts like get concussed every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jackson Dart has openly said like, it's the way I play. Yeah. They're not going to be the same.
So, and then out of the others, I would go Kingsbury 3. Like you say, his offense is a great fit. I've had a thing with Kingsbury all the way back to like 2015 Texas Tech, where he starts every year awesome and ends every year terribly. And last year was the first year of his career that actually it sustained for a full season. And so I expected them to regress this year. And then you get the injuries, so it's hard to fully suss it out. But I don't necessarily trust his ability to adapt. But I do think you could have a really awesome year one, and maybe, it's just enough of a difference that, because again, like if you just get a run game back and some of these same simple concepts, like how hard is it to throw 4 verts and curl routes? To add that in, if all your Kingsbury spread and shred, screen, quick passing stuff, like it's just a change up, and the old stuff could still be there under. So he'd be number 3 for me. And then who was the other one? McDaniel. Not interested. Yeah. I think McDaniel. I love McDaniel. I think the whole him being an OC on the same staff Vic as a DC might be completely untenable. And also, I kind of just think his style of offense would not work with Jalen Hurts very well. Yeah, that's my concern. I'm concerned culture fit with Vic, scheme fit with Jalen is my concern with McDaniel. I also think he's getting a head coaching job.
Yeah, we'll get into it more on the Patreon. We'll save some chat for the Patreon. Brother Clip saying the Commanders' offense didn't look that good when Daniels was healthy. No, Daniels, I don't think they're a very good offense, though. I don't think it's a good roster. I think you have to say what you done with him as a rookie was exceptional.
Yeah. Daniels was prime for regressing in year 2.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it there for this one, Shane, and we'll call it on the 2025 season. Yeah. And we'll leave some meat on the bone for Patreon and the OC candidate.
Yeah. All right. A comment here from Yakko. Should we be concerned Steichen was able to make Jones look like an MVP and he floundered under Dable?
A little bit.
I mean, the first year Dable was there, they made it to the playoffs with Daniel Jones. So it did fall off after that. I also think, Daniel Jones was around longer, and you should expect quarterbacks to get better. Same thing with Sam Darnold over time. I wouldn't judge. I mean, the Jets are bad, but I wouldn't judge the Jets 5 years ago for being unable to make it work with Sam Darnold, and it's working with Clint Kubiak now because he's a better, albeit still flawed quarterback. So, I actually point to that season with Daniel Jones as a good thing for Brian Dable.
Shane, I'm last thing because I just went on Diana Rossini. Is Diana Rossini reliable these days?
No idea.
Anyway. Apparently, she just tweeted or put something as Underdog's posting saying, Mike McDaniel, Brian Dable are at the top of the Eagles OC.
Yeah.
The two we just said we probably wouldn't go for.
I'm good with Dable, I think. I have some concerns, but overall, I'd be good with that one. McDaniel, I like. I just
Dable I want to like. I just think he's a dick.
Yeah.
I like rooting for people I like. When we played the Eagles, I remember when when we played the Giants this year and the Jalen Hurts fumbled on the what do you call it? QB sneak or tush push, and they'd already called the play dead. And Brian Dable just looked like he was going to strangle all the refs. And I was like, maybe this guy's not with it. But I think being a head coach and being a OC a different job. So I'll tell you what, Sirianni's not going to control him. I will give you that. And they've had some crap effort on offense this year, and Dable won't take that. So I could see it.
So, all right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of On the Shane Page. For those of you that are in the Patreon, We'll be getting into some more offensive coordinator stuff in Patreon. We'll do a mailbag. We're going to bring those back for the off season as well. And for those of you that are on the public platforms, YouTube, the podcast feed, our show will be a little less frequent in the off season, but we won't go away. We're probably going to alternate every other week with a public show and a Patreon show. So if you enjoy our content, the off season's still a great time to join. We're going to be chatting in the Discord all the time. We just brought on a new guy that's a Fangio expert and into run game stuff. We're going to be putting out videos and football 101 teaching type content in Patreon. So come hang out with us there. You can get a free 1-week membership of any tier, and you can also get a 10% discount with an annual membership. If you want to check that out, we have tiers at $3, $5, and $7 a month. So a cup of coffee or two, and you can support the content that we make and hopefully learn a lot about football along the way. So I would really encourage you to check that out. Next week, our show will be on Patreon, so you won't hear from us in the public feed, but we'll probably be back the week after that, and that'll kind of be our pattern through the off season. So Jonny, anything you want to plug or mention before we get out of here?
No, just sort of that, I guess. I'm still doing the BGN stuff as far as I'm aware. So I'll be hitting free agency in the draft huge, or a lot, I should say. That sentence doesn't make sense. Yeah, I think Patreon this year will be where I grow. Basically, what I will be doing is articles will be on BGN and all film stuff for me will be on Patreon. Free agency will hit hard when players are signed, film reviews. I'm looking forward, actually, to a little bit more of a break for draft season, because when I get to Super Bowl, that is so condensed. Yeah, I think Patreon's where we're going to have a lot of stuff. I think that we'll keep the public feed going. I want to get some interviews on the public feed, like get some maybe guys talking around the league, the kind of stuff we can't do on the Patreon as much. But I think a lot of the film stuff, for guys that like the film stuff, player analysis, and also just a bit more fun. And if you don't want any content on the Patreon, and you don't even care about any extra videos, and you're listening live now, just be aware that me and Shane are literally going to talk off air the second this ends. This stuff does take time. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So if you just literally want to support us purely to keep this show going or keep us doing this for as long as possible, please do. Yeah. Except for that, I'll be around all off season, as I'm sure you would as well, in multiple platforms. So there'll be plenty, sadly, of us still to talk about. But at least you won't be talking about Kevin Patullo's offense anymore. Thank God.
Yeah. I did you see my tweet that I put out when they announced the news yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. I clipped up the first 30 seconds from the first Wicked movie when the guy's running through the field of flowers, ringing the bell, saying, good news, the Wicked Witch is dead. I had a good laugh about that yesterday. But anyways, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you for those of you that have joined us on live shows throughout the year. Again, like Jonny said, we'll be doing stuff publicly, but a lot of the film stuff will be in that Patreon. So come check that out. Hit the subscribe button on the Eagles Pinpool Network. That helps us out as well. We appreciate you guys very much, and we will catch you next time. Go Birds.